In this video, I'm going to recap two ideas that I found on other videos, but which I think are such good ideas that they're worth highlighting. The first idea comes from a video by the National Shooting Sports Foundation, and it has to do with the correct placement of the eye in relationship to the mounted scope. The basic idea here was that you should close your eyes and put your head down on the comb of your rifle stock, and then open your eyes and see if you're looking through the scope. If you're not, then you need to do something about raising the comb. When I tried this idea on my airgun, I found that I could not see through the scope when I opened my eyes, so this meant that I did need to do something to raise the comb, and this is the current implementation of that. Basically what I did is I cut a piece off a 1/2-inch camping pad and used rubber bands to attach it to my stock. I found that this does give me the kind of position that I need to have when I'm shooting the rifle. If you need more adjustment, you can look at things like yoga mats, which are thinner than camping mats, so if you needed another 1/8 inch or whatever, you could just put layers on until you had the right height. Now this is kind of a crude installation, but if you go to Cabela's, you find that they do have a cartridge band that fits on a stock, and this could be used to hold these pads in place. Now the second idea comes from this video from Gunworks, and it is kind of a counterintuitive idea that she presents here, but I think it's very workable. Typically, we're very concerned about seeing the whole field once we put our eye on the scope. But she has a very different idea, which is that if you're having trouble getting your head position correct all the time, which it needs to be for accurate shooting, you should move the scope forward until you see something of a vignette, and you will see that in her video. But it ends up turning the scope into kind of a peep sight, where the back of the scope becomes the rear peep sight with the shadow, and the reticle itself becomes kind of like the front sight. And in a peep sight, there is a natural tendency to find the center of the hole, and this helps with your sight alignment. So this has the same effect with the scope. Here you can see that before I started this process, the distance from the back of the scope to basically the back of the cylinder was about 3¼ inches. And the process is a little more detailed because you have to unloosen the mounts and move the scope and try the position. Here you can see that in order to get some kind of effect, I've had to move the scope almost 1 inch forward. I would say that I still have maybe 80 to 90% of the field of view. There is a noticeable vignette around there, and you do tend to find the center of that vignette. I had to move the front mounts forward in order to make this adjustment, but the back mount I left the same. And if you look closely at this, you can see that the back mount has pretty much jammed into the end of the grooves, and so the scope doesn't walk anymore. This is only a 500 foot per second rifle, so it doesn't beat things up as much as other systems do. After I made the changes, I noticed that the rifle was shooting to the right, and it continued to shoot to the right until I had taken up all the slack in the windage adjustment. So I did some research on the web and found some suggestions for shimming. The first thing I did is I shimmed the front ring on the left with a piece of aluminum foil, and that did move it, but not enough. The second thing I tried was to flip the front ring 180 degrees, and this did make enough difference so that I'm actually able to turn to the right 16 clicks on this leaper's scope, which would correspond to about 4 inches at 100 yards and 4/10 of an inch. So this puts me in a much better position again.